Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to build Anby, who is a hybrid stun character, or can also be played as an on-field DPS for those of you who are still searching for your S-rank DPS in Zenless Zone 0. Now, first things first, let's talk about the combat mechanics, and then we'll go into the build. This is a fairly straightforward character to play compared to a lot of the other characters in the game. The main nuance is her combo string for her basic attacks. Now, the first combo string is just if you spam click all the way, she does this slashing thing, you saw that motion, and now instead of that slashing motion, if you just like spam auto attacking this basic attack if you're on mobile, what we're going to do is we're going to press this basic attack 3 times and then hold the basic attack for the 4th one. So it looks something like this: 1, 2, 3, and then we hold the basic attack, and then you notice that there's her slam dunk. I like to call it a slam dunk because she like kicks the enemy down. So that is something that you can do for Anby Demara, and that's pretty much the only difficult thing about this overall character. So what is the exact difference between the first and the second? The first one was Turbo Volt, the one that she just slashes if you just like spam click all the way. When you hold the third one, or you just pause for a little bit, both of them can be done. It's called Thunderbolt. The main difference between the two is Thunderbolt does more damage, slightly less stun. This is the damage multiplier, days multiplier. So 1, 2, 3 is exactly the same. The only difference is the 4th hit multiplier. So you can see here, the first one that I showed you, 239 days multiplier. The days multiplier is 181 for Thunderbolt, whereas the damage is like 369 and it goes up to like 508 for Anby Demara later on. But that's not everything. That's not the only thing that you need to consider, because when you look at her passive ability, Thunderbolt gets an additional days on top of that. So it's always better to try the Thunderbolt whenever you can, the second form, which means you hold your basic attack for the 4th and final hit. Her core passive here increases her days for lunge basic attack Thunderbolt. So the normal slashing doesn't give you the additional days, only Thunderbolt gives you, which means that you should always be aiming to do a Thunderbolt kick rather than just that slashing motion all the way. That is the key that you need to know, the difference between Anby Demara's overall kit. And that's pretty much the hardest part about her. She's a stun character, which means that her whole objective is try to like burst down enemies so your other characters can come into the game. Other than that, pretty straightforward unit. The reason why she's a bit of a DPS is because she does like on-field time. She does want to also be there to do a bit of damage. She's able to like gear well for DPS also with the amount of W engines and the gear that's available in the game. But now, let's go and take a look at some of the gear, and let's talk about how do you exactly build this character. How do you invest in Anby Demara to make her work for any of you who are planning to make her your main character as well. So, first things first, she's an electric stun character, as we already know, that is mainly focused on impact, stun and stuff like that, but you can also build her for a pseudo DPS. Out of all of the skills, I think that her special attack is very, very important. Her basic attack is very important for just to get a bit more value out of the stun. For those of you who are playing her on field a little bit more, you can consider going for dodge. For those of you who are geared towards more of a quick swap nature, you like to rotate in with your teams with perfect assist. Assist is definitely worth investing. For me, my playstyle of Anby Demara is more of a swap in kind of playstyle rather than on-field DPS to get the stun. That's why you notice that I've geared here basic attack, assist, as well as the special attack for my Anby Demara. But if you're playing on field, you can pretty much gear all of them for the skills. Her core skill enhancement is also very important. It gives you impact on the top row, whereas the bottom row gives you attack, and every single level just increases the amount of days you do with her EX special attack, basic attack. And the most important thing, of course, is in order to proc the maximum amount of days, you need to 3 hits with Anby basic attack first, and then you go into a EX special attack, a basic attack, Thunderbolt, and etc, etc. So that is something worth pointing out too. Other than that, her core skill, additional passive, is being proc when you have another electric or member of the Cunning Hairs, which just makes her a little bit more on-field-ish, because requires you to dodge counter an enemy so that she can gain extra energy once every rotation, I guess, since one is every like 5 seconds or something. So that's the difference for the dodge counter in this portion here. And for equipment, what do I recommend? I think if you're playing her stun, it makes sense to go for the free Shock Star Disco, which they give you. You get, I think, like 3 in total, right? 3 full sets of Shock Star Disco. This is actually quite strong. You get impact percentage, 6% from the 2-piece. The 4-piece gives you basic attack, dash attack, dodge counter, inflicts 20% more days to the target, which is exactly the thing that also scales with Thunderbolt's impact percentage, so that's quite nice too. I like Shockstar Disco for especially early to mid game. For those of you who are planning to play her more as a DPS, you could consider going down the Woodpecker Electro route, which gives you a little bit more crit rate, a little bit more when you crit on the enemy, gives you a certain buff. I would say you can go like a 4-piece impact, 2-piece crit for most people. For me, I'm running Anomaly because this is just simply what I have or my overall count efficiency. But we'll go into more in the builds. Let me get out of this screen and let's go over to the Bardic Needle, which I think is much better, that we can see every single gear, every single substats as well, so I can talk to you guys about this much clearer. So for Anby Demara, I think the best probably would be Shockstar Disco for a general build. The other option is of course the electric build, which I believe is... where's my Thunder Metal here? So increase electric damage by 10%. As long as enemy is in combat is shocked, the equiper's attack is increased by 28%. I don't think this is like really good unless your enemy is like machine and the shock lasts like for some reason very long. I think that you can just do with a 2-piece here to get a lot of value out of it, and then run like a 2-piece electric and 4-piece impact percentage. I think that probably will be my best recommendation in the long term for Anby Demara, who's just playing as a generic build. Crit, not super necessary, but you can also, if for example you don't want to go for a 4-piece, you can easily just run a 2-piece on the Anby Demara. It will work as well for the early to mid game. For substats, what you are looking on, of course 1, 2, 3 as you can see is all fixed. For 4, 5 and 6 position, for 4 position, I think what I will go for is probably crit rate for the most part, especially if I'm running for more of a DPS. Attack ratio is fine in the early game if you are just building her, but slowly as your subsets get better, you get more crit, you want to go into more crit rate, crit damage. Why crit damage is not as preferred to crit rate is because stun characters don't really have too much crit rate in the subs. They do want to build a bit more for other stats, and it might not be better for them to actually go with crit damage because of the lack of stats that they can get. Anomaly proficiency is decent as well, it's okay. If you are looking for no crit kind of Anby Demara, purely helping you to proc Anomaly for shot-based teams, I think Anomaly proficiency is possible, but for more of such content, we will do it in future as well. Let's do a standard cookie cutter, more of a DPS impact percentage kind of Anby Demara, which I'll recommend crit rate and early game attack ratio. So for main stats here, by and large, you want to go for electric damage bonus because that's where predominantly most of her attacks are going to be. She could run hybrid. You could argue that she can do a bit of physical, a bit of electric, especially if you're trying to clear content that is all resistant to electric. If you are going for a hybrid build, you want to go pen ratio. If you are going for an electric build, which I would recommend most people go, electric damage bonus is the way to go. Attack percentage is also fine in the early game as well, but attack percentage is quite easily obtainable for most places. That's why you want to go for rarer main stats like pen ratio. Possible main stats for the position number 6. This is where it's pretty straightforward. Impact percentage usually tops off. It scales off better base amount of impact, which stun characters tend to have as well. If you are looking for anything else, you could consider energy regen. I think that is fine too for Anby Demara. And that is my opinions for the main stats for the gear that you are having here. And substats, crit rate, all fine, like pretty much straightforward. Any of the stuff that we talked about here, if you play in those lines, attack percentage, all of them will work, pen, etc too. Now, in order to talk about the W engines, which I think is probably the interesting part, let's head over to another shop here, the gadget store, and we'll talk about the different W engines for Anby Demara that I would recommend for most people. Heading to the database here, let's take a look at the stun gear. I think for free-to-play players, you start off the game with like a selector, and if you really want to like min-max Anby Demara Battery Mark is probably very efficient to build. You have increased electric damage by 15%, you get impact percent, which is exactly what she needs. When you hit the enemy with assist attack dodge counter, so on field or a quick swap kind of nature, you get straight away additional energy regen, which plays into a lot of playstyle. I think Demara Battery Mark II is probably the best overall gear for her, considering the cost and the efficiency, and you can also pick it up for free from the early free selector as well. If you look in your storage, you might find one of them left there. Otherwise, if you used it for something else, Precious Fossilized Crystal Core, this is a free to play one, it's very good. Gives you impact percentage, same as the Anby Demara Battery Mark II. And at the same time, if the enemy's HP is high, you hit the enemy with a lot more days, helping you break the enemy quicker at the beginning. But as you go down less than 50%, you no longer get this sub bonus, so you're just purely relying on this impact percentage. That's something worth considering as well. So this is completely free. Precious fossilized core can be gotten from here. You can craft it from the buy section. All you just need to do is your weeklies, and you'll probably be able to save up 6 eventually for crafting the gear. Other than that, what are some other options for Anby Demara if you don't want free to play one, you made a mistake, didn't select Anby Demara Battery Mark II? She can actually use I think was it this one here? Yes, so the restraint is also decent. I think this is the Lycan one. Gives you very good amounts of base attack, good amounts of impact percentage. When attack hits an enemy, damage days from basic attack increases by 8%. This is very nice, stacking up to 5 times. Generally speaking, you will probably want to stack this up with stun characters quite easily and quite well. This effect can trigger at most once during each skill. The duration of each stack is calculated separately. And that's just a gimmick of the mechanics. I think this is probably very, very strong. If you got it, you can play it on Anby Demara. I think it's very, very good. Other than that, Hellfire gears. This is another one I think is also from the shop. There is 2 stun gear in the shop. So this one is slightly geared towards more of an off-field one. So Restraint is more like an on-field stun character, whereas Hellfire gears is slightly off-field. So while off-field, the equiper's energy regen increases by 0.6%, which favors your stun character to be on the bench a little bit more, waiting to rotate in. When using an EX special attack, the equiper's impact is increased by 10% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 2 times, which is very nice. You use your EX special attack and then you continue your combo strings. So you will lead in with an EX attack, maybe 1, 2, 3, and then EX attack again when you have more energy and stuff like that. So that is something worth considering for rotations. I think Hellfire gear is better for a rotation kind of quick swap Anby Demara. Restraint is better for a sub DPS on-field Anby Demara. I personally prefer the Restraint a bit more and that playstyle for Anby Demara generally. The last few is like 6 shooter, impact percentage. All of them are pretty usable for Anby Demara. She can pretty much use almost anything. But Demara Battery definitely is the best. So as you can see, Steam Oven gives you energy regen. For every energy you get more impact. After energy is consumed, this bonus remains for a while. And for 6 shooter, which when you consume the energy for this Steam Oven, it's probably just nice for the rotation Anby needs, and then you can just like switch her off, and then when she's on the bench, she can slowly build this up. This is more like generic for a quick swap Anby Demara. 6 shooter, you get impact percentage. Equiper gains 1 stack charge every 3 seconds, stacking up to 6 times, so 18. You can, how many is this? You stacks up to 8 times every 3 seconds. So 18 seconds, you will have the maximum amount of charges, and you will get quite a lot of days, increase of days as well when launching an EX special attack, which Anby Demara gets bonuses from, also from her core passive. So those are some of the gear. You pretty much can get by with almost anything. As long as it's A or S, you probably want to go. If you are unfortunately looking for B relics or BW engines, you can check out the video where we talked about all of them in the B engine guide. But now, last but not least, let's talk about something that is more relatable for 4-star A rankers, which is probably going to be your cinema here, which is your constellations, your eidolons, your additional copies. Let's talk about it also, which are the key ones. First one, when the 4th hit of Anby's basic attack hits an enemy, her energy regeneration rate is increased by 12% for 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a really, really long time. Gives her a good amount if you are doing your rotation, helps with a 30-second rotation as well. So I think this is very, very beneficial. Not game changing, but it's a net positive all around. When basic attack Thunderbolt, this is the special kick slam dunk one that we saw that you should always aim to do, hits a stunned enemy. Its damage is increased by 30%. When Anby's EX special attack hits an enemy that is not stunned, this is the skill. The days inflicted is increased by 10%. So first part here is more of DPS Anby, because usually when the enemy is stunned, you probably won't be thunderbolting much enemies. You will let your attack character do the damage. But this first part here helps her a bit more if you want to build for a DPS Anby Demara. And the second part increases the days, which means you help speed up the dazing process as well. So a good of hybrid here. Her copy 2 is also not too bad. 3. Basic attack, dodge, assist, special attack, and chain attack +2. Very simple, straightforward. 3 and 5 is pretty much the same thing as well. so I won't really talk too much about the 3 and 5, but let's go for 4 first. When Anby launches a chain attack or uses ultimate, off-field electric agents recovers 3 energy. For every 12% energy regeneration rate Anby has, recovers an additional 2 energy up to a maximum of 6. Now this makes her a little bit more beneficial for double electric teams, so you're straying away from like the Nekomata, Nicole and Billy, and moving more towards longevity for this character, playing into double electric teams. So when you launch chain attack, which means that you combo in, use ultimate, every electric agents other in your team will recover some energy. Good for like a mono electric team, for eventually some of you that want to play that. And of course, then this changes the build a little bit, because you, instead of running pure impact percentage, you might consider running the energy regeneration sets now, because for every 12% energy regeneration rate that Anby has, she does recover additional energy. So instead of impact percentage, you might switch to energy regeneration rate instead of the set bonuses for impact percentage or crit or electric. You might do a 2-piece energy regeneration rate just to get some of the value from this extra energy for her to do more skills as well. That's for 4. I think 4 is probably the most strongest out of all of them and the most game-changing for Anby Demara's playstyle. Last but not least is, of course, 6, Charging Fail. When Anby uses her EX special attack, she gains 8 stacks of charge. Max of 8 stacks. This combos with the E4 or the Eidolon 4, the copy 4 that we saw, Cinema 4, whatever it's called, because you are naturally building her for a lot of energy restoration rate, and then you will start to shift with all the gear like Steam Oven, W Engine, that gives her a lot more energy back as well. What that means is she's able to get these stacks very, very quickly, very easily. When she hits an enemy with her basic attack, dash, or dash attack, 1 stack of charge is consumed and increasing the attack damage by 45%, effectively turning her into a very, very strong DPS at copy 6 as well. Cinema 6, very, very strong. I like it quite a bit. This combos well with E4 and the other stuff, and the very wide W engine roster that we have already. So even if you want to transition to a DPS Anby, we have the stuff available as well. And yeah, that is pretty much it for Anby Demara. If you guys are interested to know how to form teams on her, do check out our other videos on the channel which focus more on the S rank, and then you build your teams up from there. Basically, she's a very, very strong versatile stun unit, and it's totally for free. She's a base character as well. And if you found this video helpful, do check out our other build guides on the channel as well for the other characters in the game. If you're interested to know how to play them as well, I try to summarize all the nitty-gritty too. And thank you guys so much for watching again, and see you in the next video.